My younger son begged me to forgive him for stealing his brother's girlfriend of 4 years, but when I revoked his inheritance, his relationship with Taylor collapsed, and now he's crying alone, begging us to take him back. I'm 55 years old. I've been working in accounting for over 2 decades, and I need to tell this story because it basically destroyed my family, and still, months later, I can't believe all of this actually happened. My wife Angela and I raised our 2 sons, thinking we had done everything right. You know, we gave them love, education, values, everything parents are supposed to give. Matthew, our oldest son, is 28 now, and Zachary, the youngest, is 25. They were good kids, or so we thought. They got along well as children. They fought like all siblings, but nothing out of the ordinary. And when they grew up and left to study in different states, it seemed like their relationship was still solid. I guess you never really know your children until life puts them in difficult situations, and that's when you see what they're really made of. It all started about 5 years ago, when Matthew met Taylor in college. She was studying something related to marketing, I think. I'm not completely sure. But what I do remember is that Matthew was completely crazy about her from the beginning. The first time he introduced her to us was on Thanksgiving that year, and honestly, she seemed like a nice girl, pretty, polite. She spoke well with Angela and me. Matthew had that look, that look men have when they're really in love, like completely lost over this person. They were together for over 4 years, and during that time she was basically part of the family. She came to all family gatherings, spent Christmases with us. My parents loved her. We all thought they would eventually get married and we'd have grandchildren, and all that stuff parents imagine. Angela had already started making comments about weddings, and I'd tell her, relax, let them take their time. But deep down, I also thought it was just a matter of time. Zachary was also in college, studying engineering in another state, and he came home less often than Matthew because, I don't know, he was always a bit more independent. More about going out with his friends than being with family. Don't get me wrong, we loved him equally, obviously, but he was different from Matthew, more reserved maybe, or more selfish. Now looking back, I can see it clearly. But at that moment, I just thought it was his personality. When he came home for holidays or long weekends, he interacted with Matthew and Taylor without problems, or so it seemed. The three of them would go out together sometimes, go to the movies or dinner, and I thought it was great that they got along, that Zachary had a good relationship with his brother's girlfriend. Never, not for a second, did it cross my mind that something could be going on between them. Things started getting weird about a year ago. Matthew came home one weekend and he looked destroyed, completely devastated. And when I asked him what was wrong, he told me that he and Taylor had broken up. Angela and I were shocked because they literally seemed like the perfect couple. Or, at least that's what we thought. I asked him what had happened, and he just said that Taylor had been unfaithful to him, that she had met someone else, and that they couldn't be together anymore. His voice was breaking when he talked, and I could see he was doing everything possible not to cry in front of us. Angela hugged him and told him everything would be okay, that it was better to find out now than after getting married. All those things mothers say when they try to console their children. I was furious with Taylor, you know what I mean? This girl we had welcomed into our family for 4 years, who had eaten at our table, who had slept under our roof, had betrayed my son in the worst possible way. Matthew didn't tell us much more that day, just that he needed time to process everything and that he preferred not to talk about it. We respected that and didn't ask him for more details, thinking he would eventually tell us if he needed to vent. Zachary called that same week, I think, and when Angela told him that Matthew and Taylor had broken up, he didn't say much, just something like, "Ah, that's too bad, poor Matthew," and changed the subject. I didn't think anything weird at that moment. It was a normal conversation between mother and son, but now when I remember it, I want to throw up because he already knew everything. He already knew exactly what had happened, because he was the reason they had broken up. About 2 months passed, maybe a little more, and suddenly we started seeing on social media that Zachary was posting photos with Taylor. At first I thought it was weird, but I didn't give it much importance. Like maybe they ran into each other by chance and went out as friends so she could vent about the breakup or something like that. I don't know. It sounds stupid now, but at that moment, my brain couldn't process what I was really seeing. Angela was the one who started suspecting first. She told me, Doesn't it seem strange to you that Zachary is spending so much time with Taylor? And I told her that they were probably just being friends, that maybe Taylor needed support and Zachary was being a good brother-in-law, or ex-brother-in-law technically. But then the photos became more obvious, photos holding hands, with their arms around each other, photos that clearly weren't from friends. I called Zachary and asked him directly what was going on. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and then he told me, "Dad, Taylor and I are dating." Just like that, so casual, as if he were telling me he had bought a new car. I was speechless. I literally couldn't form a coherent sentence in my head. I asked him, "Are you telling me you're dating your brother's ex-girlfriend?" And he said, "Yes, we fell in love. These things happen. These things happen." Those were his exact words. I asked him if Matthew knew, and he said they hadn't talked, but that he would eventually. I asked him how long they'd been together, and he said, officially as a couple, 2 months, but that they had had feelings for each other from before. That's when I started connecting the dots. When I realized that he had been the other man, that he had been the reason Matthew and Taylor had broken up, and I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I don't know what I said to him exactly after that. I think something about how he could do that to his brother, about family loyalty, about respect, but he just kept repeating the same thing, that they had fallen in love, that they couldn't control their feelings, all that garbage people say when they want to justify doing something horrible. I hung up the phone and sat on the couch, unable to move. Angela asked me what had happened, and when I told her, she started crying, not from sadness but from rage, that kind of crying that comes when you're so angry you don't know what else to do. We called Matthew that same night and asked him if he knew, and he told us yes, that he had found out a few weeks ago when someone sent him the photos from social media and that he had tried to talk to Zachary but that his brother had basically told him that he and Taylor were adults and could be with whoever they wanted. Matthew then told us the whole story. Taylor hadn't just been unfaithful, it had been specifically with Zachary, his own brother. Apparently it had started months before they broke up. Secret meetings, when Zachary visited the city where Matthew and Taylor lived, hidden messages. The whole classic infidelity novel, but multiplied by 1,000 because it was his brother, his own blood. Matthew said he had confronted Zachary one last time on the phone and that Zachary had told him something like, "I'm sorry, bro, but love is love. We can't control who we fall in love with." Matthew had responded that. Then he also couldn't control the fact that he never wanted to know anything about him again, and Zachary had simply said he hoped that someday he would understand and had hung up. That was the last conversation they had, and months have passed already. The thing is that Zachary apparently thought we were going to be okay with all of this, that we were going to accept Taylor back into the family as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't destroyed our other son. About 3 months after they officially started dating, he showed up at our house on a Friday night without warning, with Taylor on his arm, both smiling as if they were the happiest couple in the world. Angela opened the door and almost closed it in their faces when she saw them. I was in the living room and I got up quickly when I heard his voice. Zachary walked in like nothing, super casual type, and said, "We have exciting news," and Taylor raised her hand showing an engagement ring. "We're getting married," Zachary said, "and we want you to be part of our special day." I can't even describe the mix of emotions I felt at that moment. It was rage, disappointment, disbelief, all together. Angela was the first to react. She told them to leave her house. How dare they show up there after what they had done, that they were a disgrace. Zachary got defensive immediately, saying we were being unfair, that they truly loved each other, that Matthew should get over it already. Those words, "should get over it already," as if your brother sleeping with your girlfriend was something you just get over like nothing. I told him we weren't going to any wedding, that we weren't going to support this relationship, and that he needed to leave my house. Taylor started crying, saying they just wanted to be happy. Why couldn't we be happy for them? And Angela practically pushed her out toward the door. That night I called my father, the boy's grandfather. He's 82 years old now, a man of very strong principles, one of those old school guys who believe in family loyalty above all else. I told him the whole situation, and there was a long silence on the other end. Then he said, "Give me a moment to process this." He called me back about an hour later and told me he had made a decision. Turns out years ago, he had set up trust funds for both grandchildren, money he had been saving and investing for decades, and that he planned to give them when they got married or bought their first house, whichever came first. Zachary's fund was about $150,000, I think, maybe a little more. And Zachary knew about this money because my father had mentioned it to him when he turned 21. My father told me he was going to revoke Zachary's access to that fund, that he wasn't going to allow his money to finance a wedding built on betrayal and the pain of his other grandson. The next thing my father did was something I didn't expect. He sent a message to the entire extended family, and when I say entire, I mean entire. Uncles, aunts, cousins, second cousins, in the whole family network we have, which is quite large because we come from an Italian family where everyone is connected somehow. In the message, he explained exactly what Zachary had done, without sugarcoating anything, without omitting details. He said that Zachary had betrayed his brother in the lowest possible way, that he had had an affair with Matthew's girlfriend, and that now he pretended to marry her and expected the family to celebrate it. He said that any family member who attended that wedding would be disrespecting Matthew and the values our family had always defended. It was brutal, it was public, and it was exactly what needed to happen. The responses started arriving almost immediately. Uncles and aunts that Zachary barely saw, but who had known both boys since they were babies, called to say they were horrified. Cousins Zachary had grown up with sent him messages telling him he was a disgrace. My sister, Zachary's favorite aunt, called him crying, asking how he could do something like that. One of my cousins, who's a priest, sent him a long message about the importance of family and loyalty between brothers. The social pressure was immense. And to be honest, part of me felt bad for Zachary despite everything. Because he's my son and seeing him being repudiated by the whole family was painful, even when I knew he deserved it. Zachary called us furious after my father sent that message. He was screaming that we had ruined his life. How dare we embarrass him publicly, that he and Taylor just wanted to be happy and that we were all being cruel for no reason. I told him that he had ruined his own life the moment he decided to sleep with his brother's girlfriend, that actions have consequences, and that if he couldn't see how wrong what he had done was, then there was nothing more to talk about. He kept screaming about how we were bad parents, about how we were choosing Matthew over him, about how true love should be more important than these stupid rules about who can be with whom. Angela told him that until he sincerely apologized to his brother and admitted what he did was wrong, he wasn't welcome in our house. He hung up the phone and we didn't hear anything from him for weeks. What happened next we found out from my mother, who still maintained contact with Zachary because, well, she's his grandmother, and couldn't just cut him off completely, even though she disapproved of what he had done. Apparently the family pressure was too much for Taylor. Every time they tried to plan something for the wedding, some family member would back out of attending. The venue they had reserved received calls from our relatives asking about cancellation policies. The few friends Taylor had who knew the situation started distancing themselves. Her own family, who at first had been kind of neutral about all this, started questioning her when they found out all the details. Taylor's mother apparently asked her if it was really worth losing an entire family for a man, especially considering how the relationship had started. About a month after the engagement, Zachary called us again. This time he wasn't yelling. He sounded tired, defeated. He said that Taylor had canceled the wedding, that she couldn't handle the pressure, that she couldn't get married knowing that no one from his family would be there and that everyone was judging her. I asked him how he felt about it, and he said he was devastated, that they had planned a whole life together and now everything had fallen apart. I waited a moment and then asked him if at any point during all of this he had thought about how Matthew felt, if he had considered that Matthew had lost not only his girlfriend, but also his brother, if he understood that the pain he was feeling now was a fraction of what Matthew had experienced. He didn't answer that question, just said he needed to hang up and hung up. My mother told me later that Zachary and Taylor broke up completely shortly after canceling the wedding. Apparently they couldn't survive all the pressure and drama, which is ironic, isn't it? Because all this time Zachary had been saying that their love was so strong, so real, so inevitable. But in the end it couldn't even withstand a few months of family disapproval. I guess it's easy to say that love conquers all when there are no real consequences, but when reality hits you in the face and you realize your actions have a cost, the story changes. The most twisted thing about all of this is that Taylor, after everything ended with Zachary, tried to contact Matthew again. She sent him long messages saying she had made a mistake, that what they had was real and what she had with Zachary had been confusion, that if he could forgive her, they could try again. Matthew showed me the messages, and I couldn't believe this woman's audacity. After everything she had done, after having destroyed not only their relationship but also the relationship between two brothers, she had the nerve to think she could just get back with Matthew as if nothing had happened. Matthew didn't respond to her. He blocked her from everything and moved on with his life. He met someone new a few months ago, a girl named Kayla, who seems like a genuinely good person, and although it's obvious he's still working on healing from all this, he's better than he was. Zachary, on the other hand, isn't handling it well. My mother says he calls her often, that he's depressed, that he lost not only Taylor but also his relationship with Matthew, with us, with most of the family. That the trust fund my father revoked was money he was counting on for several plans he had. That he feels lonely and doesn't understand why everyone turned their backs on him when he was just following his heart. Every time my mother tells me these things, I feel a mix of things. On one hand, he's my son. I saw him being born. I raised him, and it hurts me to know he's suffering. On the other hand, he made decisions fully knowing the potential consequences, and now he has to live with those decisions. I can't just forgive and forget because that would be disrespecting Matthew, who did nothing wrong in this entire situation other than trust the wrong people. Angela and I have talked many times about whether we did the right thing. There are nights where I wonder if we were too harsh, if we should have tried to mediate between the brothers instead of taking a side so clearly. But then I remember Matthew's face when he told us what had happened. I remember how his voice broke when he talked about the betrayal, not just from Taylor but from Zachary, his own brother, the person who was supposed to take care of him and protect him. And I realized there's no version of this story where what Zachary did is okay, where we could have just accepted the situation and moved forward as a happy family. Some betrayals are too deep. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. The last time I spoke with Zachary was about 2 weeks ago. He called me late at night. He had been drinking, I think, from how his voice sounded. He said he was sorry, but when I asked him specifically what he was sorry for, he couldn't articulate a clear answer. He said he was sorry things had turned out this way, that he was sorry the family had been divided, but he didn't say he was sorry for betraying his brother. That difference is important, you know what I mean? One thing is to regret the consequences of your actions, quite another to genuinely regret the actions themselves. I told him that until he could really understand what he had done wrong, until he could see beyond his own pain and acknowledge the pain he caused, there was nothing more to say. He stayed quiet for a moment and then said, "Are you never going to forgive me?" And I responded, "I don't know, son. Honestly, I don't know. But what I do know is that forgiveness isn't something you just give because someone asks you for it. It's something that's earned, and so far you haven't done anything to earn it." Matthew comes home more often now. He brings Kayla sometimes, and it's nice to see him smile again. Although I can see he still carries everything that happened. He doesn't talk about Zachary. It's as if his younger brother never existed, and that breaks my heart because when they were kids, they were inseparable. There are photos of them all over the house, Matthew teaching Zachary to ride a bike, both of them in Halloween costumes, playing video games in the basement, and every time I see those photos, I wonder at what point everything got twisted. At what point Zachary decided that what he wanted was more important than loyalty to his brother. Maybe I'll never know. Maybe there's no clear answer because people sometimes just make selfish decisions without thinking too much about it. Last week was Matthew's birthday, and the whole family came to celebrate, except Zachary, obviously. My father, my mother, uncles, cousins, everyone was there, and it was a nice gathering, although there was this obvious absence, this void where Zachary should have been. At one point, Matthew found me alone in the backyard and told me, "Thank you, Dad, for supporting me, for not minimizing what happened, for not asking me to just get over it." And I told him he didn't have to thank me, that it was my job as a father to protect him, support him, and that he should never have doubted we were on his side. He nodded and didn't say anything else, but I could see in his eyes that it meant a lot to him to know he wasn't alone in this. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, if there will ever be reconciliation or if our family is going to be permanently divided. Part of me hopes that Zachary will eventually understand the magnitude of what he did, that he'll find a way to genuinely apologize and make peace with Matthew, but another part of me knows that some things can't be fixed, that some wounds are too deep. For now, I can only keep supporting Matthew, be there for him while he heals, and hope that Zachary someday looks in the mirror and sees not the man in love who followed his heart, but the brother who betrayed the person he should have cared for the most. That's all I can do, I guess.